If you're not making reels right now on Instagram, you're honestly limiting your growth because right now Instagram is focusing primarily on reels because they're trying to compete with TikTok. They're even going as far as paying people with a business or creator account in what they're calling the Reels Play bonus program. The maximum earning for each account selected can range from a few $100s all the way up to $10,000. I myself was selected for November and December, and I actually hit the maximum earning bonus of $1,000 for each of those 2 months. And since I made a lot of reels to hit the maximum earning for those months, I learned a lot, which is actually why I wanted to make this video with tips that I've learned from making reels and how you can use those tips to get more views with your own reels. Before I continue, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Anker. I bought several Anker products in the past and I was more than happy with those products. So I was really happy when they reached out to me to talk about one of their newest products, the Anker 521 Portable Power Station. This little guy has so much power, specifically 256 watt hours, and you can use that power on any road trips you might take with any electronics, or simply use it to charge your devices on the go when you might not have remembered to charge them ahead of time. There's lots of ports to choose from, including a high-speed 60 watt USB-C port, two 12 watt USB-A ports, two 100 watt wall outlets, and a 120 watt car outlet. You can even use all these different ports at once, plus there's a power saving mode you can enable that stops the charge once everything is full. When you need to charge the power station back up again, it only takes 2.5 hours. And speaking of recharging, the Anker 521 power station also offers solar recharge as it supports pass-through charging and maximum power point tracking. What's really cool about this new power station is that it's powered with a lithium iron phosphate battery that's used in electronic vehicles that offers 6 times more usage than conventional batteries. This allows a long battery life of 10 years, so you're definitely buying it with confidence in mind. Another cool little feature is the handy built-in light bar that you can turn on to see in the dark. It's a bit of a funny coincidence that Anker reached out to me because I was actually looking into a similar product not too long ago, the Jackery Explorer 240. The Jackery 240 did offer some cool stuff and was a little cheaper, but it lacked a couple of features that the Anker 521 doesn't. With battery life, the Jackery 240 only offered 2 to 3 years, which is far less than the 10 years that the Anker 521 has. And the Jackery 240 also lacked a USB-C port, a power saving mode, and that built-in light bar. So it really made it hard for me to get or even recommend. In contrast to that, I can definitely recommend to you guys the Anker 521 Portable Power Station. It's seriously such a great product. I'm really happy that I was able to get it. And if you guys are interested in getting it yourself, then you can check out the link that's going to be in the description area below. Tip number 1 is to use a hook. And all that means is to use an attention getter so people want to see the rest of your video. The whole premise behind Reels are quick, short videos, so you have to get people to be interested in your video right away. A few ways you can do this is visually with something nice and interesting at the beginning of your video. Like for example, if you're doing a behind the scenes video, you can add that at the beginning of the reel, and then it would make people more interested to see the rest of the video. You can also create some interest with some text at the beginning of your video, letting people know what they're going to get into. So if you're making a tutorial for makeup or something, you can add, here's how to do makeup or something like that, and then continue the video with steps for that tutorial. You can actually create some interest with the song that's playing in the background of your reel, something that matches the vibe of the reel, or something trendy, or actually something that's both trendy and matches the vibe of the video would keep people on your reel and keep them watching till the end of the video. You can kind of think of it like using a popular song that you really like as the ringtone to your phone, and then when somebody calls, you want to hear the song a little bit before you answer, right? You can kind of think of it like that. The hook is the most important tip I can give you in this video, which is exactly why I wanted to talk about it first. If you don't grab people's attention right away, they're just going to scroll on to the next reel, which is why you should have a good, interesting hook. There is one more tip that I can give you with the hook, and that's to be very expressive with your face or use your hands or be very animated. I use my hands just naturally a lot, but my face is kind of just the same. But I know if you were very expressive in your face and be very animated, it kind of grabs people's attention. I know this is a fact for YouTube and thumbnails, so I'll give you guys that tip. I personally don't like doing that, but I know it works, so keep that in mind. Tip number 2 is somewhat related to a section of the first tip that I gave you, which is to use an interesting, popular sound, but it's a little bit more specific in that you should use a trending audio. If you pay attention to the bottom left side of the screen when you're watching Reels, you might see an arrow pointing up and to the right. If you see that arrow, then that means that the audio that you're listening to is a trending audio, and that means that Instagram is going to push any reel with that audio more into other people's feeds, which means more views for you. It's important to note that just using a trending audio won't magically give it lots of views, but it can help. And the whole point of making this video is to give you different tips that you can use in a single reel so you can get that reel into other people's feeds so you can get more views, get more followers if that's what you want, or earn more money if you get selected in the Reels Play bonus program. Tip number 3 is something that I hope you're doing not just with Reels, but in your photography as well, if you're a photographer watching this, which is to focus on a niche. Too often I see photographers not focusing on just one aspect of their photography on their profiles, and that can only hurt you as a photographer promoting yourself on Instagram, as it's basically acting as your portfolio. You definitely can be proficient in many areas of photography, but it's important to highlight just one focus so that a potential client can know that you're exceptional in that one area instead of being bombarded with various ones. When it comes to Reels, focusing on one niche does the exact same thing. It lets the viewer know exactly what they're getting into if they like a reel that you've made. If you make one awesome reel one day and somebody sees it and they like it and decide to follow you, and then the next day you make a dancing reel, then you more than likely would cause that person to unfollow you. With my own reels, I honestly did start a bit all over the place, but once I focused on one niche and I focused on the strengths within that niche, it led me to getting more of an audience with more views. Tip number 4 is honestly the easiest tip that I can give you that actually helps a lot, and that's to use an appealing thumbnail. Lots of people use a frame from the reel itself, and while that may work, what I would recommend you guys do instead to get more views is to use a photo that's related to the subject of the reel, especially if there's nothing too exciting in your reel. For example, if I'm making a tutorial on something, the cover photo of the reel might be something that's a result of what I taught in that reel. Although it is a bit unethical, one last thing that you can do with the cover photo of your reel is to use a clickbait photo to trick people into checking out the reels that are on your profile. I may or may not have done that before, but a majority of the reels that I've made actually relate to the subject of my reel. Tip number 5 is to have a CTA, a call to action. And all that means is to suggest that the viewer do something to drive up engagement for your reel. A lot of people add the words read the caption at the end of a reel or comment with your favorite whatever at the end of a reel. Honestly, it could be as simple as asking a question in the caption of the reel too to drive up engagement. For myself, I've been doing exactly that. I've been asking questions in the caption of my reels because that question results in a comment on the reel, and that means it's going to drive up engagement, which means that Instagram's going to push that video out into other people's feeds, which means more views and more followers. In my own reels, I've noticed that whenever I don't include a call to action, or if my call to action is not very clear and in your face, I've noticed that I get less engagement in that reel, and that means less views. Again, you want to make sure that the call to action is very clear and very present so that people don't miss it, so that you can drive up engagement rather than not drive up engagement. There's actually just one more tip that I wanted to include, but it's something that I have not verified, so take it with a grain of salt, and it's the tip of making people pause your reel. I know it might seem counterproductive to make someone want to pause your reel, but whenever I've done this myself, whenever I've seen different type of tutorials that have steps that disappear too quickly off the screen, and I have to pause the video by holding my finger on that reel, I've noticed that whenever I pause a reel, that person that created that reel shows up more frequently in the next 10 to 20 reels. My theory on this is that since you're engaging so strongly by physically touching that reel, that's a strong engagement, which means that Instagram thinks that you're really engaged with that creator, so they show that creator more often in the next 10 to 20 reels. If you want to try this yourself, then I would recommend putting some text on the reel and then making it go away after half a second to 1 second at the end of your reel. This could cause people to want to pause your video or replay that reel, which would result in more engagement or more views. That's pretty much it for this video. I know that some of you out there will think, why should I trust this guy with information or tips on making reels when he's only been making reels for a month? Well, I'll show you guys some stats on my account from a month prior to making reels, so it's just photo posts, and then a month of making reels for every single day for a month, and let you guys decide for myself if you should take my advice. I actually had one of my reels hit 1 million views for the first time, and it's actually already on its way to 2 million views. You guys can check out that reel on my profile if you guys want to see it. If this video helped you at all, be sure to give it a like right now. It's on the bottom right there. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe because I have a lot of videos coming soon that are aimed to help you out. Also, don't forget to check out the Anker 521 power station in the description area below. and I'll catch you guys in the very next video. Take care.